The nuclear energy industry got a surprising boost late last week when Microsoft and Constellation Energy announced that they were going to open up 3 Mile Island, at least one of the reactors on 3 Mile Island, in a 20-year power purchase agreement that Microsoft is going to use to power its AI data centers. So again, this is the artificial intelligence boom that's driving new energy adoption in pretty old energy. These are assets that have been in the ground since the 1970s. So is this going to cause a resurgence in nuclear energy? I want to dig through the details here and try to level set expectations for investors, because some of these stocks are starting to move, but there's a very long ways to go until even this reactor, which is actually built, is going to be operational. My name is Travis Hoium. Thanks for watching Asymmetric Investing. Please subscribe here on YouTube for all my content. And thanks to this video sponsor, The Motley Fool. If you go to fool.com/ASYM, they'll give you their top 10 stocks to buy right now. Let's go right to the details of the announcement. This is the announcement from Constellation Energy. They are the ones that own 3 Mile Island Unit 1. That is the nuclear reactor that we're talking about in this Microsoft deal. Unit 2 is the one that partially melted down in the late 1970s. So when you hear the words 3 Mile Island, that's probably initially where your mind goes. That is not this unit. This unit has actually been operational for most of the past 4 decades. Shut down exactly 5 years ago before this announcement. And that was for economic reasons. That was not for safety reasons. That was because nuclear energy was beginning to be more expensive than other forms of energy. So what they're going to do is they're going to bring approximately 835 megawatts of nuclear energy to the grid. That'll be 3,400 jobs or so and about $3 billion in state and federal taxes. Here are the really important details from this announcement. To prepare for the restart, significant investment is going to be made into restoring the plant. That includes turbine, generator, main power transformer, and cooling and control systems. Constellation Energy is going to seek to renew their license through at least 2054, and the plant is expected to be online in 2028. Why is Microsoft doing this? Why are they making a 20-year commitment? Their goal is to match the power in its data centers in PJM. What exactly does that mean? This is one of those details that not a lot of people are talking about, but is ultimately really important. This is PJM. The way that the United States grid works is there's essentially a number of different grids that are regional in nature. It's not just one national grid. So this is the PJM. PJM comes from Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Maryland. That was the original locations for this grid. So that's where the name comes from, and this is the areas of operations today. So what Microsoft wants to do by reopening 3 Mile Island is they want to offset some of the energy consumption in PJM from their data centers. So the electricity is not going to go directly from 3 Mile Island to a Microsoft data center. That's not the way that any of these clean energy deals work. The way that they work is they're going to feed electricity into the grid, and then they're going to offset their usage whenever they're using it. The job of the operators of PJM is to make sure there's enough supply to match the demand for the grid overall. So this is just an offset deal. It's not really directly feeding electricity from 3 Mile Island to Microsoft data centers, but on a net basis, on an annual basis, that is ultimately their goal. So it seems like nuclear energy is making some sort of comeback. And we've seen that over the past month or two, that nuclear energy stocks are starting to gain a little bit of momentum. But the thing that I want you to remember from this announcement is this is a nuclear power plant that is built, that was operational for decades, and they're still not going to be opening it up for more than 3 years. So there's a ton of investment that needs to happen, and it takes time to do that, to build out these nuclear assets. And that's fundamentally, I think, the big challenge. There's both the cost challenge. Remember I mentioned that 3 Mile Island was closed for economic reasons, not for safety reasons, but because it didn't make sense economically to be feeding electricity into PJM at the cost that 3 Mile Island had to operate. Now Microsoft can come in and say, hey, these economics make sense for us because we just need to turn on more electricity. And if we're providing that base load of electricity as we're pulling more out, that's going to be a benefit for the grid overall, and we're willing to bear that cost. But there is going to be a huge time lag, and I think that's something that we're all going to need to consider when we look at things like nuclear energy stocks. I'll talk about a couple of ETFs in a second, but even some of the new reactor companies, really interesting new technology, may not be generating significant revenue for a decade. Thanks to our friends at The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/ASYM for the top 10 stocks to buy right now. So how can you invest in this space? One of the best ways to do it is just through ETFs. You could invest in a company like Constellation Energy. They are the direct beneficiaries of this agreement. They're going to take an asset that was not generating any revenue and turn it into a revenue generating asset. And then theoretically, they should generate a positive return on investment given the fact that they're offloading this electricity to Microsoft. But we don't know the exact details or ROI that they're going to have behind that. Another way to play the industry is to just simply invest in ETFs. These are funds that are going to own a broad number of companies, so you don't have to pick individual winners. And there are three that are relatively similar. The first is the Global X Uranium ETF, URA. The ETF's objective, this is always what you want to look at with ETFs, is to provide investment results that correspond generally to the price and yield performance before fees of the Sole Active Global Uranium and Nuclear Components Total Return Index. So that's the index that is trying to essentially copy. If we go down to holdings, you have Cameco, Physical Uranium, Next Gen Energy, Uranium Energy Corp, a lot of Canadian companies in here that are involved in nuclear energy. Another one is Sprott's Uranium Miners ETF. The objective of this one is to invest at least 80% of its total assets in securities in North Shore Global Uranium Mining Index. Index is designed to track the performance of companies devoted at least 50% of their assets to the uranium mining industry. Go down to holdings. Again, a lot of Canadian companies, Kazakhstan, Australia, United States, Hong Kong, and United Kingdom. Cameco, Sprott's Physical Uranium, we saw that before. Denison Mines, CGN Mining, Next Gen Energy, Uranium Energy. So some similar names, but a little bit more focused on the mining side. The third is the Van Eck Uranium and Nuclear ETF. This seeks to replicate as closely as possible before fees the MVIS Global Uranium Nuclear Energy Index. So what are the holdings of this one? Constellation Energy, Public Services Energy Enterprise Group, Cameco, P&G. So a little bit more focused on the utility side of things. We see Next Gen Energy here again, and Uranium Energy. A lot of similar names between these companies, but just a little bit different focus because they're following a little bit different index. One of the things that I do want you to note is since inception, which is 2007, if you would have invested $10,000 in this particular ETF in 2007, you would now have a little less than $12,000. So you could probably do better investing in a savings account. Nuclear has not been a great place to invest, in large part because the number of nuclear power plants in operation was in decline. Is that going to shift? Is this kind of announcement going to lead to a surge in development? We will have to see. Two of the big companies over just the last week or two have made big announcements related to nuclear energy. Oracle talked about they have permits for 3 small nuclear reactors to power some of their new artificial intelligence data centers. Microsoft now having this announcement to reopen 3 Mile Island. But the caution that I want to bring to this discussion and the market's reaction right now, because some of these uranium stocks and nuclear energy stocks have really surged over the past couple of months. But if you look at the details of each one of these announcements, the actual production of nuclear energy is going to be multiple years away. The Oracle announcement may not be until 10 years from now that those small nuclear reactors are actually operational. This one, 3 Mile Island, isn't going to be operational until at least 2028. So there's a long lag between here and there. And if artificial intelligence, data centers, and demand for AI and GPUs, all of the things that we're talking about investing in right now, need energy, and they need energy now, there's going to be better, more cost-effective ways to invest in energy. In particular, wind and solar are relatively quick to sign a power purchase agreement and actually build a plant. If you think about very small-scale solar, you can have solar panels on your roof within a month or two. So don't be surprised if these big tech companies take a multifaceted approach to energy. If they have been signing wind and solar deals for the last decade, don't be surprised if we see some more of those big deals along with more of these nuclear energy deals. But I don't think this is going to be a one-size-fits-all thing. And the lag between here and when there's actually significant revenue being generated is going to be a lot longer than you might think. So the market's excitement about this may die in the meantime. And the economics of these companies maybe not all that attractive. So I'll be back here with more analysis of nuclear energy because I think this trend toward nuclear is really interesting. We'll see if it displaces some of the other clean energy assets that have been built like wind and solar over the past decade or two. may come down to dollars and cents. But let me know what you think in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe to Asymmetric Investing. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you here next time.